Everybody, here's another little quick tip for you to help out. How to play with a metronome. So it's come to my attention actually, a lot of my students, when I tell them, please practice with the metronome, they'll turn it on and they'll play with it, but they won't actually be lining the notes up to the beat, and it doesn't actually get the thing that I wanted accomplished, but they totally are doing it. So it's come to my attention that you really need to explain how to actually use the metronome and how to take the abstract concept of like a rhythm in time and map it out to beats. So first things first, you got to decide what is the time signature. You got to decide how many beats, what is the rhythm value of the click of the metronome. Could it be quarter notes? Could it be whole notes? Could it be half notes? And then how many clicks are in each note. So I've written out 3 examples, and we're going to show you exactly how this works. So come over here. We notice we're in 4/4. First example, we see some quarter notes, we see some eighth notes, we see some half notes. Okay, we know we're in 4/4. We know we have 4 quarter notes per bar. And I'm going to say click is going to equal 60 BPM. Now, that 60 BPM could be anything though. Could be eighth notes, it could be half notes. What is it? In this case, I want to say quarter notes. Each click is going to be a quarter note at 60 BPM. Now I've made that decision. Each click is a quarter note at 60 BPM. So to play this exercise, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Rest, rest. So you'll notice that every click, every time I had a click, I played a beat, right? So the notes, the quarter notes that I played, they started on the click, and then when another click happened, I played the next quarter note. So it goes click, click. Check it out. As opposed to, maybe the click happens and you start the note and it's not on it, right? So quarter notes, 2. See how that works? The start of my note lines up with the click. Now you'll notice in this music we have some eighth notes, okay? We have some eighth notes over there. Now we know if this is 60, this metronome going on right now, quarter note equals 60, then an eighth note, right? Eighth note, we're going to have 2 eighth notes per click. So 2 of these eighth notes. So it's going to go. You'll notice in the space of 1 click, I played 2 even notes. So we go. See how that works? We have a click. Now the important part here, and I think what I'm trying to articulate, is that the metronome is a tool, and you need to actually listen to it when you're using it. So you'll notice in these examples that I just showed, which I'll link to and you can kind of use to practice, the dotted quarter note one especially. But you'll notice every time I played a note, I was taking care to line it up with what I decided that the metronome was. So I said the metronome was going to be clicking quarter notes at 60 BPM, and that meant that every time this thing clicked, I was making sure to play a quarter note's worth of whatever was on the page, right? This comes in handy when you're trying to learn a piece of music, you're doing your Suzukis, you're doing your whatevers, and you're sitting there and you're wondering, okay, my teacher's saying play this with the metronome, my rhythm isn't really solid, why not? You pull out the metronome, you turn it on, you say, I'm going to decide quarter note equals whatever, and then you're going to sit there and you're going to line this up to the grid, nice and even, finding a slow enough tempo for yourself that you can do this without slowing down or speeding up, and you're going to use that metronome to help yourself kind of map out the rhythm and the pulse in your brain, right? This is just essentially a calculator. It's telling you that, hey, 60 BPM sounds like this, right? That's 60 BPM, and you can decide whatever value you want that note to be. Great. So let's actually talk really quick about the second example, and then I think I'll leave the last example if somebody wants to upload a little video and show it off to see. I'd be more than willing to clear up any inconsistencies with it. But let's just take a look at the second example that I gave, because what we're going to do is we're going to do something a little fancier. We're in 4/4, but now I want to not update my iPad. What I want to do is I want every eighth note. I want every eighth note to be a click, right? But we're in 4/4. And so what that means is I'm going to say, okay, eighth note now. The eighth note is what I'm going for. And because I want to keep the rhythm, somewhat consistent, I'm going to say now the eighth note is going to be, the BPM is going to be 120, and we're going to be clicking eighth notes. Okay, so now I've decided that this is an eighth note. Okay, every click is an eighth note. All right, so now in 4/4, what that would sound like is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so we've got everything dialed in. We've decided what we want. We've decided what we want with our metronome. We've decided what the music, with the time signature, all that stuff. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because we have that dotted quarter note right there, and that's 3/8 notes. A dotted quarter note is 3/8 notes worth of time, right? And so we have from the beginning, okay, let's go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you see how that works? What I'm doing is on these dotted quarter notes, I'm going 2, 3. Yeah? So check it out. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and I'm counting those clicks in my head. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and. Now, if you're right now going through the Suzuki books, this is not an unfamiliar rhythm, right? Not an unfamiliar rhythm. This is very common. In fact, it comes up in book 1, it comes up in book 2. A lot of people have issues with sort of mapping this out in space. And it's very easy with the metronome. We listen and we go 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and. Yeah? So we've mapped that out. Let's just listen to this exercise, because it also has a dotted half note, which is going to be 3/4 notes, which means how many eighth notes? 6. It's going to be 6 eighth notes. 6 whole eighth notes, or 3/4 notes, or 1 dotted half note. You get the picture. So let's fire this up. We're going to go second exercise. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so you noticed when I hit those eighth notes, it was ta, 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 right? Because we have eighth notes, and we've decided that right now in 4/4, we are setting our metronome to 120 BPM, and we are saying that it's going to be clicking eighth notes. And so that means every eighth note is going to have 1 click, right? And we listen for that 1 click, and when I hit those eighth notes, I change my bow on the click every time it happens. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So now for some of you, this might be like the most trivial thing, and yeah, that's fine. But I've actually also noticed, like, some people, they didn't grow up with the metronome. Nobody's explained this before. And then you get this case of students feeling like, well, it's like too late to ask, and you're embarrassed. I would say this: if you ever have any questions about just the basics of rhythm, the person to talk to is your teacher. They will 100% help you out. I know for myself, I spend a lot of time on stuff like this, and they will be probably really enthused to hear that you have questions about, like, how many 16th notes are in a quarter note, or like how many 16th notes are in a dotted eighth note. You know what I mean? Chances are, if you're with a private teacher, they'll just rattle it off for you, and it'll be kind of a nice little experiment to see how all the fractions work out. But I hope that this helps, and also if you've made it this far in the video, if you're trying to teach this, you'll notice I was very methodical about kind of the way that it works, and I would really say, like, the order of operations of finding the time signature, saying how many clicks that the metronome is going to have, and then asking how many clicks per note, that has been really effective for me. I always try and do it 1, 2, 3. I always say we are in 4/4. I'm setting the metronome to 120 BPM, and we're clicking eighth notes. how many clicks are in a quarter note? Something like that. And we just set up this dialogue and we start to ask each other, you know, what is this? What is this? What is this? I found that that is a little bit more effective than just being like, well, how many beats per metronome? It's like you're saying this is this and this. So I hope this was helpful.